Hi everyone! Welcome to our prevention education program entitled A Guide to Safe Sex. This presentation is brought to you by Adrienne Carter, Shalonda Houston, and Hannah Sikora.
Our preventative education program targets adolescents. An adolescent is a young person in the process of developing from a child into an adult. The World Health Organization defines an adolescent as a person between the ages 10 to 19. However, for our program, we're going to extend that to the age of 21. Our program offers education as a form of prevention for teen pregnancy and contracting STDs as a safeguard to their mental health. Adolescents go through 3 stages: early, middle, and late adolescence. Early adolescents, ages 10 to 13, are growing more quickly with puberty beginning. They are noticing those bodily changes, and girls are starting their periods at this time. So this can inspire curiosity as well as anxiety in some, if they don't know what to expect from these changes. Some children may question their gender identity. This is also usually a difficult time for transgender children. As far as their thinking, it's concrete. They're either right or wrong. There's usually no in between. They're self-centered. They're self-conscious. They have an increased need for privacy. They will, at this point, usually push boundaries and may react strongly to things that they don't agree with. Middle adolescents are continuing the puberty growth spurts. Girls have now developed regular periods, which means they have a higher risk of becoming pregnant. Their interest in relationships are now beginning to be romantic or even sexual. And this can be stressful because at this time they're exploring their sexual identity. And if they don't have support from peers, family, and community programs such as this, they don't know what to expect, and it can be damaging to them. Another way they're exploring sex right now during this stage is self-stimulation or masturbation. They begin to have abstract thinking and to develop socially. Late adolescents, 18 to 21, generally have grown into their adult bodies. They're more impulse control by now. They have a stronger sense of their own individuality by now. They can identify their own values. They're more focused on the future and base those decisions on their hopes and ideals. Their relationships become more stable. They're more emotionally and physically separate from their family at this time. Many of them reestablish an adult relationship with their parents, meaning they see them as peers rather than authority figures. Among U.S. high school students surveyed in 2017, more than 46% of sexually active high school students did not use a condom the last time they had sex. 40% of the students had never had sex, which means 60%, more than half of the students in the United States, are having sex. 10% of those having sex had 4 or more sexual partners, high risk for STDs. 7% have been physically forced to have sex. 30% had sexual intercourse during the previous 3 months. So of those 30%, 46% did not use condoms the last time they had sex. 14% did not use any method to prevent pregnancy. 19% had used drugs or alcohol before sex. Less than 10% of all students had ever been tested for HIV, which means they're uneducated, they're not even aware of the high risk or their status. The 2018 statistics regarding HIV, STDs, and teen pregnancies are as follows. 21% of all new HIV diagnoses were among the ages 13 to 24 in 2018. Of those, 87% were young men and 13% were young women. As far as STDs, half of the 20 million new STDs reported each year are among the ages 15 to 24. As far as teen pregnancy, nearly 180,000 babies were born to teen girls aged 15 to 19 in 2018.
There is a great need for safe sex prevention and education for many reasons. Shalonda pointed out that there are increased rates of unsafe sexual intercourse among adolescents and increased rates of STDs among adolescents and young adults. Some of the more common ones are chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. There's also a need because of the abandonment of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. They ended ongoing grants that equated to over $200 million that entirely discontinued their teen pregnancy prevention program in 2018. We also need this so that students understand the risks of having unprotected sex and the risks of teen pregnancy. So some of those include STDs, an unintended pregnancy, and the health risks that teens could face because of it. Some of those include premature birth, anemia, high blood pressure, a higher rate of infant mortality, and a greater risk of cephalopelvic disproportion, which is when the baby's head is wider than the pelvic opening. And these can be very dangerous for young girls. Another risk is high school dropout. So pregnancy and birth are both significant contributors to high school dropout rates. The statistics show that 50% of teen moms receive their diploma by age 22. So that's a later graduation, and that's still only half of the teen moms. But there are some education resiliency rates, and some of those themes across those moms who did graduate include hope, perseverance, and support. Sometimes your neighborhood characteristics can have an effect. So different communities are at higher risk of teen pregnancy. A lot of these depend on the ethnic groups, the majority ethnic group in the community, and the typical SES, the socioeconomic status of the community. There's also the possibility of having a single parent family. And then also there can be negative effects on the children of teen moms. So as a teen mom, you now carry this financial, physical, social, and psychological burden. And the kids of these teen moms are more likely to grow up in poverty, have a low educational attainment, become involved in the juvenile justice system, and also have a higher risk of unemployment. Another reason is because not all parents have the sex talk with their children. Some parents are uncomfortable talking about this subject, especially those who are single parents who are of the opposite sex of their child, or they may be guardians of these kids, but they aren't their parents, such as foster parents, grandparents, or other extended family members who may feel like that's not their place. And sometimes the parents or guardians aren't present. So if a child has a parent who is incarcerated or they are living in a foster home. Also, these classes would bust some of the common myths about teen sex, such as everyone is doing it. Lastly, we would provide resources for these students so that they know where they can get help if they need it. So some of these would include local counselors, OBGYNs, clinics, family planning centers, places where you can get free STD checks, and also pharmacies.
Some of the logistics of our program, the goal would be to change the behavior with information, skills, and confidence for adolescents and their ability to act safely. It'd be a 6-week group counseling psychoeducational skill building course with the 9th graders in their homeroom class for about an hour each week, and we would split the groups by gender. The government, the state, and schools can make it really difficult to get funding. They have different beliefs, they have different political agendas. So ideally, this would probably be privately funded by donations and possibly some grants. And then another option would also be to get volunteer graduate and doctoral students to help teach and implement the program. And they would be supervised by a licensed professional counselor or LMFT. During the first week of our program, we do an introduction to STDs and HIVs and go over the different attitudes and beliefs about those things, and then present the kids with the facts about infection and the implications for teen parenthood. go over the health effects of STDs and HIV on both the parents as well as the fetus and the child. And then to go over and hand them out some resources of where they could get tested and how the testing works. In week 2, we'd have a discussion on sex and pressure. This would include the beliefs and myths about safe sex, the social pressure that they face, the different relationships. This includes the relationship with the person they're going to engage in sexual relations with, as well as the relationships like with their parents, and the emotions that kind of surround all of those different things. You can see kind of in our pictures just the different emotions that one can go through, because it's a very emotionally charged subject anyways, and to get the kids to really open up about those different things, and to just kind of give them ideas into the different feelings that they may go through. Week 3, we would go over all the different types of contraception that are available, both for the females and males, and talk about the effectiveness and the proper use of each of those contraceptive forms. And then with condoms specifically, talk about the different types and the proper fit, and give an anatomical demonstration of how to put a condom on correctly. Weeks 4 and 5 would be skill building, and we would primarily focus on how to talk about boundaries with your partners, your parents, your friends, and your peers, how to say no, how to talk about getting tested first and safe sex, how to talk to your parents about safe sex and what your needs may be, and really push assertiveness, accountability, communication, respect, and trust, and build on those skills so that they can be used successfully. And week 6, we would use for processing and to distribute all the resources that the students may need or want for testing, and for how to get access to the different birth control types they may want to use, and give them an evaluation questionnaire so we can improve upon the program, going over what they learned, what they gained, whether or not they feel prepared to handle issues regarding sex, and what the learning process was like for them.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and now it is time to vote. The school board will vote whether or not to allow the Guide to Safe Sex Education and Prevention program to be implemented in the local high schools within the district.